So today, I want to talk about the Trek Emonda SL. And this is the 2017 edition of the bike. Now, before we get into it, I just want to say what the stock bike was. So, on my bike, I changed 1, the saddle, 2, the stem, and 3, the crank. So the crank I changed out to a cork power meter. It's a 175 millimeter mid compact, so I have 5236 chain rings on there. And on the end of those bad boys, I have some Shimano 105 pedals, the carbon version. And so far, those have worked out great. No complaints with the cork or anything like that. The saddle, that's all just personal preference. I, have used this specialized toupee saddle for many years. So it just kinda, it fits well. It fits well. So I put that one back on there. I have the carbon railed version. I think it's the middle tier, it's not the S-Works version. And then for my stem, I put on a 110 millimeter. The stock bike comes with a 100 millimeter, and I just had a specialized stem laying around, so that's what I used. But either way, it works, just personal preference on the length you want. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of the handlebars. They're 44 millimeters, and pretty much every bike brand on the 58 centimeter bikes start to put 44 centimeter handlebars on there. Now, I personally like 42s or something a little bit thinner than the 44s. They just seem a little bit wide. If I were you, I'd recommend changing them out. I also don't really like the drops. I tend to rub my wrists on the handlebars when I'm sprinting in the drops. And sometimes I even got bruises on my wrist because of just hitting my wrist back and forth on the handlebars. Other than that, I'd say this bike is, it's decent. It's not the best thing I've ridden, and at this price point, it's probably one of the best on the market. It comes with full Tegra 11 speed, and I am used to riding SRAM. I was on SRAM Red 10 speed before this, and it takes some getting used to at first, but it's definitely grown on me. With the SRAM, I'm used to being able to pull the lever towards me when I'm sprinting and could just push that. But with Shimano, I have to reach a little bit further. By only having one button to shift down, you definitely don't miss it and push too far and go up a gear. You always, when you press a button, you know which gear is being changed and where you're going to. Now, as far as stiffness goes, it's not the best. Honestly, the only other comparison I have is a specialized tarmac and a giant TCR. The TCR was by far the stiffest bike I've ever ridden, and you can just feel it when you put down the power on that bike. It just went. Now, granted, it was a little bit of a harsher ride, so if you're hitting a lot of bumps or going over rough roads, then it's not, the most comfortable. I wasn't able to do any giant rides on that bike, but I would imagine that the Emonda is a lot more comfortable than that bike, and I'm able to do hundreds of miles, or I think the longest ride I've done on this is about 110 miles with no problems at all. It was comfortable, and it got the job done. Now, as far as wheels go, they're the Vision Metron 40, and the newer models have updated these to the Aeolus, and I definitely recommend Aeolus over these wheels. The hubs have been giving me a little bit of problems, specifically the rear hub. It's, there's some grinding caught in there, and they use weird technology to open up the hub. So it's definitely, maintenance is a little bit harder on these wheels. Now, the wheels are pretty stiff though. I don't notice them hitting the brake pads too much when I'm sprinting. Occasionally they'll touch a little bit, but for the most part they're stiff and fast and comfortable, and they're a good all-around wheel. Now, one thing I really don't like about this bike is the seat mast. So normally when you're buying like a climbing bike, you don't have a lot of proprietary technology, and the seat mast is just one thing I just don't like on the bike. I currently have a frame bag, so whenever I travel, it just gets in the way versus a regular seat post would just, you know, make it that much easier to transport. And yeah, it's just annoying. Also, like, I can't imagine you saving that much weight using a regular seat post versus the carbon built into your frame. It's just a little thing that gets annoying when you buy a bike, like a climbing bike. You want it to just be a normal bike, normal brakes, normal seat post. Now, I will say this is a team bike, so I partially feel like I have to say it's good and you should buy it. But I do want this channel to be as transparent as possible, and for me to be as transparent as possible and tell you what I like, what I don't like. So for that reason, I'm gonna say definitely check this bike out. You know, give it a test ride, but also look at the tarmacs, look at the specialized allays. The crit edition is what I like to call it. I forget what the actual name is. Look at the giant TCRs. You know, just get a feel for all these different bikes, the Cannondales, and decide that way what you really want. This bike is, you know, it's a great machine for the price. Like, it's that middle range option, and it's gonna get the job done. Like, you're not gonna lose because you bought this bike versus a tarmac. But that being said, it's all about personal preference and what you like the feel of. So I would recommend just giving a bunch of bikes test rides. But that being said, if you do go with this bike, it's a great option. I like it. I ride thousands of miles on it, and you know, I haven't won a race yet, but it's coming, it's coming. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you tomorrow.